that company now that were superstars over in Japan before the AEW happened.
Well, as everybody knows, there's a good group of guys from AEW, such as Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and even Cody. They were all members of a group called Bullet Club, which really took off. Back in the day, it's had many, many members, especially ones such as AJ Styles, Adam Cole, Finn Balor. They were all members of it.
Was Jeff Jarrett a member for some time?
Yeah, he was. It was very short and brief. I didn't really follow when he went over there.
Yeah.
He went over there to, I don't know if it was like a cross-promotional type thing, but he was there for a very short time as it. Adam Cole was a very short-time member, as well as AJ Styles. They've had many members, such as I've said, Tama Tonga, his brother Tonga Loa, who are the Guardians of Gorillas of Destiny, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Yuji Tashahashi. He goes by the Tokyo Pimp. Gato. Evil is one of the newer ones. He used to be part of the LIJ with Tatsuya Naida, Sanada, Bushi, and Shingo Takagashi. He recently turned on him when they had their last tournament, and Evil for a short time was a dual champion, being their Intercontinental and the IWGP Heavyweight champ, which he actually had won and then just recently lost to Tatsuya Naida. So there's a lot of history between Bullet Club, LIJ, Bullet Club, Chaos, and a little bit with Suzuki Gun, which is pretty much run by Minoru Suzuki, who actually, before he started doing wrestling, he was actually like a UFC and cage fighter guy and all that. So he's considered a very tough fellow for being a guy in his 50s.
You know, New Japan strikes a lot harder than American wrestling.
Yes,
That's what they call it, the strong style.
Oh, yes. Heavy hitting. They love power bombs and tombstones, and they do enjoy a lot of high-flying maneuvers, and they enjoy also fighting out on the floor.
Good stuff. Good stuff. This G1 tournament, how often does that happen? Is it an annual thing or biannual?
Yes, it's an annual one that they always usually do around this time of the year.
Forgive me for not knowing.
But it's just one of many that they do. I know that pretty soon there's going to be another one coming up. Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember exactly which one is going to be the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there's going to be obviously some matches. I know that members of Suzuki Gun, which is Jack Zabers Jr. and Tachi, who are tag team champions, I'm assuming could have a title match against Hiro Tanahashi and Ibushi, since they've had ongoing back and forth, as long as Ibushi's current victory in the G1 doesn't collide with that. And of course, Will Ospreay and Okada will be. I'm sure there will be some stuff between Tatsuya Naida and Evil, because I know that one hasn't simmered over yet to ending, because it's still such fresh wounds of the betrayal that Evil did.
Yeah.
So I can.
He was evil.
And he's pure evil. That's why.
Has he ever wrestled a guy named Good?
No.
Just
nothing like that. So.
Totally ridiculous.
Sorry.
Totally ridiculous. Well, good stuff. You know what? Hey, we're not going to spend too much time on the New Japan tonight, but we did want to hit on the G1 since it just happened. Let's talk a little Impact. All right? This last Tuesday, we had some stuff go down with Moose and EC3.
Correct.
Scott D'Amore, he's kind of in the middle of all this.
He's in the middle of many things.
In the middle of many things. We'll get to Eric Young, too. So, at Bound for Glory, EC3 and Moose.
Yeah, what it is, Moose, he basically picked up the old TNA title because he wanted to be considered a great wrestler like many of the past TNA ones. Was defending it practically every week against whoever he felt or wanted to invite. EC3 coming back from his time elsewhere. Wants to erase that belt because he feels he needs to destroy his past to actually have a real future. Slowly been playing with Moose's mind, and that's going to actually come to a head here very shortly.
He can do whatever he wants to with that belt. He's still named Carter.
Well,
so unless you get rid of Dixie, you're really not going to get rid of the history with that guy. I'm surprised. I'm amazed that this guy was able to keep the EC3 in the WWE.
Well, when it's something that good, and if he has...
It's like being an Anderson.
If he has the right to it,
It's like how Orange, he looked like Ole. so he became an Anderson. You know what I mean?
Those things can happen, but he's taken that persona, he's owned it, and he's made it in his own. And
yeah, I don't think people even think of Dixie Carter anymore when they think of EC3.
No,
she's such a memory. I mean, talk about TNA putting it to rest. I don't think they want to acknowledge Dixie or anything with that. So Mind Games, right? EC3.
Yes.
He's working Moose over.
Yeah, I can see that come into an epic finish. Where it'll go, who knows? Maybe they'll get rid of that and finally finish their time under the any TNA banner. Or who knows, it could be something to revive it, just as a nostalgia thing. I mean, they've had many belts that they have brought back, used, changed in some way, just to create story and some interest.
Talk about an interesting story. What about Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary?
Well, it's interesting about Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary. They've been on a 3-match streak, and they've had to deal with Tasha Steelz and her partner, Kara Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
And now with Rosemary getting married to John E. Bravo, the wedding preparations and stuff, she needs to do that resurrection for Father James Mitchell, and she's going to have a match coming up against an old rival in Jessica Havoc.
I like it that James Mitchell is going to be the Reverend.
Well, hey, if there's anybody that's got to do the nuptials for a demon assassin, there's no one better than Father James that could do it.
It's always nice to see the good father back. Remember the new church?
Oh, yes.
You need to bring the new church back. So, yeah, what about Havoc? She's got Nevaeh?
Nevaeh is a tag team partner that she had when she wrestled down in the Independence of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, Nevaeh is not the only person that had a tag team partner with Jessica Havoc. She used to be back in a women's company called, I believe it was Shimmer or possibly Shine. She actually
one of the S ones.
Yeah, she actually teamed with Madison Rayne back in the day when they first started out.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, they were.
Oh, wow, she's been around that long.
They were tag team partners. That's why a few months back when Nevaeh showed up, Madison recognized her and knew exactly who she was because they have a bit of a history as well.
Yeah.
But Nevaeh and Havoc, they've been partners off and on for probably the last 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
One of the times that you can recall seeing her is when Impact actually did some cross-promotional stuff with the Ohio Wrestling Company, Border City, Windy City, and so on. There was a tag team match that had them, and when I saw that match about a year or so back, I thought those two ladies should definitely come back, especially Havoc, since she does have history as being one of the women's champions in the knockout division.
Wonder how much longer Taya Valkyrie is going to stick around, in Impact with Johnny being in WWE. It seems like these couples, it's hard to keep them in separate promotions.
It can be a little difficult, but you can succeed in that. I mean, it's been seen with a few other couples. From what I know, contract-wise, I do believe Taya Valkyrie has at least another year's worth of time on her Impact contract, because she did sign, I believe, at 2 years.
Well, I mean, I hope, personally, I don't think any girl should leave Impact. I think that the stage isn't as big. But, I think that as far as women's divisions are going right now, you got NXT, but I think it's Impact.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, you look at AEW and they don't have it yet. You look, WWE don't even, they got the best girl wrestlers in WWE on the main roster, arguably. PWI, their top 5. Did you see that?
No, I did not catch that.
All right, their top 5 was all WWE.
What a shock.
It was Bayley, all right? It was Asuka, it was Charlotte, it was Becky, and it was Sasha. I think maybe in that order. I think it was Sasha, Charlotte, Asuka, Becky. Bayley was number 1.
Bayley was number 1?
And I think it's because she's been champion over a year. And it's kind of like you got. It's not like she doesn't deserve it, but you got to give a rub to somebody when they're champion for the whole year. You kind of got to acknowledge that, I would think. It's hard to keep a champion a year anymore in this business.
That is true.
And I'm amazed that, quite frankly, it's happened more more times than not, especially on the bigger company. But Fallah Bahh, Crazy Steve, this is a weird one.
Well,
this was a match on Wednesday. I didn't even know Crazy Steve was back.
Oh, yeah, he's been back for a couple months now.
Yeah.
He was wrestling for, I want to say, the House of Hardcore, or...
that sounds about right.
One that...
no, the ICP promotion?
No.
Are they even still around?
They did bring him back, and from what I know, when they signed Crazy Steve, he actually has a slightly longer contract than some of them. You know, it's a multi-year, beyond 2 years.
You know, he's got enough recognition now where I think Crazy Steve is probably a valuable asset that Impact has now.
Oh, yes, he's an enjoyable character.
I mean, you don't have Abyss anymore, but you got Rosemary there. They can always get back together whenever.
Bring back Decay, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and Sue Young?
They haven't quite done anything bringing her back. They're still a little bit with the Susie character because they have her.
She's still off and on.
Kyrie Rain.
Yeah.
Kylie Rain.
Yeah.
But I mean, with Crazy Steve, he's very impressive because if a lot of people out there don't know, for those of you out there, he's actually legally blind. He can see shapes and shadows, but he doesn't have it to where he has legal sight. And this guy, he's a great performer in the ring. You know, he's always impressed me when I first found out.
You got your real-to-life Daredevil in the ring right there with Crazy Steve.
Absolutely.
You know, I wonder why they haven't pushed that more. You know, usually when there's like something like that, they kind of adopt it with a gimmick just to get more kind of.
Well, the funny thing
I don't know,
about
support, if you want to call it that.
the funny thing about that, when they were doing the Wrestle House over the last month or so, there were a couple times that even Crazy Steve stated about him being blind. You know, theft of the beer from the Deaners and stuff, or certain things. He'd say,
the Deaners.
I'm blind, you know, I'm blind and I could even see that. You know, it was cute little references where he did state that he was legally blind. So they did play it off a bit.
Well, I mean, your senses, you know, it's not just a comic book thing. Your senses do get more heightened, right?
They do.
If you lose one.
The sense of touch.
He could hear the Deaners deetin' a mile away. All right, so Rhino and Heath.
Yes, it's Heath.
It's
just Heath now.
Rhino and Just Heath, they're back together on Impact. Rhino made a deal that was unaware to Heath before the match that if Heath would have lost, Rhino would have had to leave as well as Heath.
Right, and that's still part of this little gauntlet that they're doing to find a number one contender. So Rhino has really put his money where his mouth is, because he did convince Heath to come to Impact instead of staying in his old stomping grounds where he would have gotten some money. But Heath trusted his tag team partner and friend, and now they've got to try very hard to make sure one of them win, or Rhino's career in Impact is going to be done.
Yeah, and it looks like they threw a bunch of people in a 10-person tag. Tommy Dreamer.
Yes, the ageist one.
I would have to say at this point, yeah, I'm amazed to see this guy anymore. You know, with everything I grew up watching this guy do. And the fact that he's alive. You know, I was thinking about ECW alumni. And I was watching even the House of Hardcore show that they did back in 2006. Half that roster is dead now.
It's true.
I mean, they lived some hard lives, those ECW guys. And Tommy really lived something hard when he was in the ECW in the 90s. But he's still out there wrestling.
On occasion.
It's unbelievable. On occasion, but he can still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
He's also the owner of the House of Hardcore.
Right, he's the owner of the House of Hardcore. Well, he can't die then. He needs to be around. You know, but it's kind of funny. You look back, you know, just a little bit, just on an off tangent here on ECW. And the thing about ECW, you go back and you watch those matches, and it's like the people that at the time you said they're going to die if they don't stop that, they did. And you're kind of looking at the shooters and the more authentic wrestlers like your Taz's and your Jerry Lynn's and your Shane Douglas, your Justin Credibles, they're the ones still around.
I know. They put their bodies...
But Axel Rotten, Ian Rotten, Balls Mahoney, and now another guy I can't believe, New Jack is still with us, and so is Mustafa. But anyway, I digress. So, Impact, we got Eric Young. He is the heavyweight champion, so good for him.
Yeah, he came in and...
So depressing watching him in the WWF waste his life.
Oh, that's the E, not the F.
Oh, yeah, WWE.
Yes.
Still a old habit to break. But, you know, it was shameful watching Eric. Because, you know, taking his age into consideration and everything he did up to that point, it's like the feeling you get when you watch Bobby Roode.
Yeah.
You know, like he's away for so long because he couldn't come to Canada, all that stuff. He comes back, and what are they doing with him? Did they reinvent him? Did they relaunch him? Did they give him anything?
No.
He just went with Dolph Ziggler over to Raw instead of SmackDown. It just makes absolutely no sense. But you got Eric Young. He's got a heated feud with Rich Swann.
Yes, he does.
And I like this segment on Wednesday. Eric's just going crazy. So tell us a little bit about the feud.
Well, when Eric Young came back, when they decided to bring in all these people like Brian Myers and eventually and hopefully Heath and some of the other guys, what happened was that he was in that 5-way for the title that ended up being Eddie Edwards. But
Yeah.
as you all know and saw, Eric Young was the first, I believe, the first guy pinned by Rich Swann. He then attacked Rich Swann, trying to damage that ankle so he wouldn't win it. And sure enough, he did put Rich Swann out of it for a while, having to rehab that ankle. And if you saw in the last couple weeks, he attacked Rich Swann again with that ankle, trying to make sure he couldn't be there so he couldn't have to defend his title against Rich Swann. But what the doctor says is that he's a unique and special athlete and has some pretty great healing properties, and he's going to be fighting him for that title. But last week on the show, Scott D'Amore told him this, and Eric Young sort of went off the hinge and attacked Scott D'Amore and all this. He's the guy who's the producer, the boss. It's
And also, I let everybody know about Eric Young and Scott D'Amore, the history here.
Well, back in the day when the TNA product was still partly under the NWA banner, Scott D'Amore used to manage Eric Young, Rude, and Petey Williams, along with a few other fellas as Team Canada. They were a strong, young faction of really talented, strong, athletic fellas. And so, I mean, Scott D'Amore, he knows his guys since Scott D'Amore was once a wrestler himself. So he has tons of connections. He knows, he's watched and seen Eric Young grow and become what he is today. But he just doesn't understand what's going on with Eric Young and this madness that has consumed him.
Think, real talk, you think helped Eric Young, Scott D'Amore, being the booker there?
I think...
You think the title reign coming so quickly was just because, you know, Scott knew what he had in Eric?
He knew what Eric has, but he didn't know the kind of mental state maybe that Eric was in, and got maybe a little more than what he bargained for. And I'm thinking he's just hoping the best for whatever happens, because I could see Eric Young putting even more damage on Rich Swann. So I really hope Rich Swann knows what he's doing, and wish him the best in that ring.
You know, glad to see them both getting appreciated. You know, Rich Swann went through all of that stuff in the WWE. He came into Impact. They've been using him great. You got Eric Young there, just back to form. Yeah, you know, it's really a shame when these talented people, they go to another company, they flounder, they lose so much time.
Right.
I mean, in the peak, in just their prime, and it was all for nothing. It's like if Eric Young didn't leave Impact. You know what I mean? Think of everything that probably would have been storyline. Eric Young, for those of you that have been following Impact for a while, Eric Young was more than just a wrestler in Impact. This guy was like the Daniel Bryan of Impact. The fans loved him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he came out, and it's like he was the guy that, like, was hard to hate. You know, and now that he has completely done the 180, he's doing the heel thing in Impact. This is the Eric Young that the WWE had. Insanity. This is just his sanity character. Going the crazy, and it's unbelievable to me.
Well,
Unbelievable. They start a faction. They bring the whole faction up, and you wouldn't even know it.
right.
You tell the common WWE wrestling fan, "Hey, Sanity, remember them?" Oh, what?
I know they come and go like a lot of.
And it's like, well, you know who Nikki Cross is. You know, unfortunately, she didn't get buried. That was fortunate for her, but I mean, I don't know, man. It's too bad. It's too bad. It really is that these guys that hone their craft and they get taken and they get, you know, convinced to come up to the corporate hellhole that is the WWE. And the WWE just collects them. They don't do nothing with them. And what does it matter? What does it matter? You don't need them. Anyway. Eric Young, I'm glad to see he's doing well.
Yes.
I really am. And I'm glad to see that this is a feud that is really passionate and heated and has everybody... I just started watching Impact again after not watching for 3 months, and it has my interest. I always liked Eric Young, and I'm glad to see he's a heavyweight champion. Yeah, somewhere. All right, Eddie Edwards, Sami Callihan. This is very natural to me. Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan just... I feel like these guys should feud for the rest of their career. It's just they're two peas in a pod, these guys. So Sammy has the services of Ken Shamrock.
Yes.
Another man that I can't believe, my God, but this man in his 50s is, hey man, he looks pretty good on Wednesday.
He's managed to keep that body in shape for his age and all that, but yeah, Sammy sort of manipulated Ken Shamrock into going after Eddie Edwards. For what reasons? It's hard to say because, I mean, Sammy and Eddie do have a long history. I mean, everybody remembers when Sami Callihan did take the baseball bat to Eddie Edwards' eye and almost cost him his eye. I mean, that's something real serious. You could cost a man his career and all that. But now that he has Ken Shamrock doing his dirty work and all that, which... doesn't seem a little out of character for Ken Shamrock, but he seems to stir the pot for Ken Shamrock, and there's a lot of fight, and I see that match coming up, and it's going to be a really good one because, you know, Ken may be the most dangerous man, but I'll give Eddie Edwards one of the most resilient men.
Oh, yeah, definitely Eddie Edwards is one of the most resilient. I totally agree with that. It's going to be a pretty good match. I think this upcoming Bound for Glory is going to be a good card. I really do. I'm almost convinced to get it myself, and I'm sure I will because we're going to want to talk about it next week.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about Deonna Purrazzo before we get off of Impact and move on. We got Kimberly defeated Kylie Ray. Kimberly is with Deonna Purrazzo.
Correct. They've been hanging together and all that because the Virtuoso, being the Knockouts champ, she's been holding on to that, and she's going to be facing Kylie Ray here at the next pay-per-view, and Kylie Ray being the number one contender since she did win that number one contenders gauntlet match of the women's a few weeks back.
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly was there basically to make sure that maybe she'd be injured or not 100% to make it a little bit an easier time for the Virtuoso. But that didn't quite happen. I mean, they did take out Susie by breaking her arm at the Full Gear. I believe it was Full Gear.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking her arm after her title defense against Susie. So we've seen in the last couple weeks Kylie Ray show a bit of a dark side herself because of what they did to her friend Susie and all that. And Deonna Purrazzo, she might want to watch out because if she catches that ire of Kylie Ray, she could end up losing that belt as quick as she got it.
And finally, we do got the Good Brothers versus Madman Fulton and Gambit.
Yeah, it would be the Ace Austin, I'm assuming you're talking of. Yes.
Yeah, he's Gambit, all right, boy.
Yeah, I know. The Cane.
Everybody knows what his favorite comic book character was growing up.
Well, last week they did have a really good match between two big monsters.
Hey, he's a talent. I mean, I just, yeah, I read it. I totally see what he's trying to do there with the card and the cane and the trench coat and the hair combed over this way. I totally know what he's trying to do there.
Well,
it's cool. He needs a Southern belle with curly brown hair and a white streak.
Well, the match between the big LG and
Mm-hmm.
Madman Fulton, it started getting a little out of hand, and the higher-ups decided, why don't we just make that like a no disqualification basic hardcore match? And boy, these two men, they did beat the living tar out of one another. Because in the end, you did see the old LG. He gave him a bit of a sky high through some chairs to put the Madman down for a 1-2-3. So I see this one continuing, and we know that the Good Brothers got their eyes set on the Motor City Machine Guns and those Impact Tag Team Champions, just like the North and Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. So that four-way for that coming up, that should be a really interesting and unique match because any one of those teams could come up on top.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch that Machine Guns North match.
Oh, it's an excellent one.
You know, I'm kind of disappointed. I didn't even know. This is the thing. You know, we'll end this with the Machine Guns.
Yeah.
With Impact. I didn't know they were back.
Well, they came back when they were having that special open challenge that was set up by the Rascals. You know, one of them was there. The other one was sort of roaming around, not committed to any one company. And I'm sure Scott D'Amore pulled that little magic out of his hat again and said, hey, how about you guys want to come in and see if you still got that chemistry? And after 8 years not being together, it seems like they never lost a step.
You know, and I mean, granted, their biggest home as a tag team was Impact.
Oh, yes.
But it amazes me that it took Scott D'Amore from this little promotion to get one of the greatest tag teams of the last decade.
Oh, yes.
To get back together. It's like no, WWE.
Oh, yeah.
No, they're out there. Who cares? They're the Machine Guns. We don't care. It's like, what? Really?
I know.
It's like if they were willing to get back together, if it wasn't like a personal thing.
No.
Why weren't these guys together in AEW or NXT or anywhere? That doesn't make any sense to me, man. I mean...
Well, each of them have had their issues with injuries over their life. I mean,
right.
Anybody who knows Chris Sabin knows that.
Yeah, I know Chris Sabin.
He's torn both ACLs in his knees, and for a little
while. He had fantastic X Division matches back in the aughts.
Alex Shelley, late last year, did take some time off from wrestling because he did, I believe, break his jaw and had nerve damage in his mouth.
Oh, like Finn Balor, huh?
Similar to it, but a little more nerve damage, and I think he wanted to take a little time off to see how the healing would go, and he came back a while back in Ring of Honor, did some pure matches with a few of the guys in there, and showed he still had what it takes.
Awesome. We'll have to see this Saturday what happens to everything. This Saturday, Bound for Glory. So tune in Tuesday for the go-home show and see what they do last minute to build up to all of that. So, moving on. ROH.
Oh, Ring of Honor.
What do we got for ROH, Cecil? Because this is yet another promotion that I don't follow. Okay. I did, but it's kind of hard to wean out the shows. Tell the audience a little bit about what's going on with Ring of Honor Wrestling at the moment.
Well, Ring of Honor about 2 or 3 weeks ago finally came back into televised tapings because of the pandemic going on. They took a little time off for all their guys and gals to heal up and prepare for the future. Well, they decided to do the whole company over. You know, they want to try and revamp the women's division, but one of the things that they did is they asked the guys and gals in the locker room what could they do for the comeback, and some of the fellas said, why not bring back something that this company hasn't done in a while, and that's called the Pure Tournament, where they got 16 good athletes who had wrestling skills, and they set up special rules for it. If you were in a submission or pin, you could only get 3 rope breaks. First round in the tournament were only 15-minute matches. If it went to a 15-minute draw, they had 3 judges where they decided who they thought was the better one. Now, there was a thing, I believe that you were, or they were iffy about you throwing one punch. If you threw a punch, it could be considered not as pure because it was all move for move base on that.
Just kind of shooting.
Yeah, basically
from start to finish.
A catch shoot type match.
Catch is catch key.
And
yeah, sure.
Second rounds they pushed them into the 20-minute time limit to give a little extra.
Yeah.
And there have been plenty of good wrestlers who not are only just Ring of Honor, but guys who came from other companies as well. People such as Fred Yehai. And if people don't know who Fred Yehai is, he's a guy who first started in a company that was called, I believe, Catch Pro Wrestling, where it was a lot more technical wrestling, not high fly or high risk. He and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, who has been in...
I like that tag, Hot Sauce.
Yeah. He calls him Hot Sauce because he has a bit of a temperature, and when he reaches that boiling point, he picks it up a gear and puts you on your back.
It's like hot stuff Eddie Gilbert.
They used to wrestle in there, so they have a little knowledge with each other. Plus, you also have Matt Sydal, who you have seen on AEW.
Yes, very familiar with Matt Sydal.
And then you have both members of the tag team champions, Jay Lethal, a multi-time champion in there, television and heavyweight, and Jonathan Grisham, who's known as the Octopus, who has wrestled around the world with tag teams and singles. You also have...
Why is Jonathan Grisham known as the Octopus?
Well, the Octopus, he finds himself as a pure wrestling savant type, a prodigy type wise. You know, he believes that he is the best pure wrestler out there.
Mm-hmm.
And for a man of his size and stature, you know, especially if he's facing bigger or stronger men, he has to make sure that he has the right moves where he can use the leverage and their own strength against him to beat his opponents. He's very well versed in many types of reversals, counters, and submissions. And just within the last 2 weeks, he married his fiancée, Jordan Grace of Impact.
I like Jordan Grace. You know, Jordan Grace, we didn't hit on the point that Jordan Grace is one of the people that's going to be in the X Division match this Sunday. That's is that a first? For Impact, just getting back to Impact for just a second here, just while we're on the topic.
No, there was one other female, I believe Tessa Blanchard was in a bit of an X Division story there for a while.
And they ended up utilizing her for the heavyweight belt.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
Jordan Grace, I can't really see doing a heavyweight thing. Like Tessa was kind of unique in that way.
Yeah, they may
and she kind of had the Sammy feud building into that.
Yeah, it all really depends on what they feel on that one. But
well, hey, you know, so ROH, there's a tournament going on.
Yes, this last Friday. You can the company shows their shows on one of the Fox Sports affiliates, and it was the second round. We had Jay Lethal against Dave Finlay, a third generation wrestler.
Is he related to Fit?
Fit's son, yes, and they faced each other where Jay Lethal did win. In the Block B, they had the Octopus, Jonathan Grisham. He went against Matt Sydal, and it was a fine back and forth, which Jonathan Grisham did make Matt Sydal tap in a very unique kind of, I don't want to call it a muffler-style submission, but if he didn't tap quick, that knee would have probably gotten seriously damaged.
Busy guy. You know, Jeff has some of his novels over there on the shelf.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Mr. Grisham there. Anyway, but, just a joke.
Coming up this Friday, there should be the other two semifinal matches, which will actually have Mr. Fred Yehai going against...
I like that name.
I know you love him, and you should watch him. That guy has got serious talent. I used to watch him when he was in MLW. Him and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams will be going at it one more time to get into this Pure Tournament finals match for their Block A. And on the other one, we have PJ Black, a familiar man who has wrestled for, 20-some years. And you all knew him back in the WWE as Justin Gabriel, but now he goes by the Darewolf, and that guy can still go. He'll be facing a young fella in Josh the Goods Woods, a guy who also knows how to grapple and has some experience in cage fighting and all that. He's the youngest of the group, and that should be a very entertaining match between the two. And
POC, is Pac still there?
POC, from the last I know, and all that, he and a lot of the others that were assigned into the company, they are still there. But they're using this tournament as a beginning point to get back to normalcy for their company. I'm sure after this tournament, they'll have more of their tag teams and their singles guys back. There was an incident during the last taping where you saw Vincent, former member of the Kingdom, who came out.
And that was with Maria Kanellis. And
she was a previous member with Adam Cole
and Mike Bennett.
Yes, the current one had TK O'Reilly, Vincent, and Matt Taven, who was the leader. Vincent betrayed the Kingdom and attacked Matt Taven and injured him greatly in the knee. Well, Vincent was out there talking, doing his promo, and he got a surprise in a fully healthy Matt Taven, and Matt Taven showed him he was serious. He stripped away the mat to its bare boards, dropped him down hard on it, took him out into the outside ring, put up a table, slapped him on it, went straight up to the top rope, and did a beautiful little swan frog splash dive and put him right through the table.
Mm-hmm.
These two will definitely be facing each other very soon in the near future, and that should be a match people should watch because it should be very entertaining.
So what about the women's division in ROH?
Well, the women's division, it's been a while since we've seen the ladies, and if memory serves me right, I believe a member of the Allure, which I believe was Angelina Love, was the current women's champion, and she has Mandy Leon. Velvet Sky is also a member of this, but we haven't seen her recently.
Boy, they're just joined at the hip, those two.
They are, for better or worse.
Velvet's still with Bubba?
From what I last know, I believe so.
I like that. I like the idea of that couple.
Yeah, I'm sure you're one of few that do. But the last I know, she was the champion. Hopefully, they'll be restocking it with permanent gals. I know Jenny Rose, Sumi Sakai was in there, Maria Manic. I know there was a few others, but they don't come to mind right now because we haven't seen them in such a long time.
Sure.
It's hard to say who they might be trying to bring in to help fill that roster, but there's plenty of talent out there that they could get.
Well, hopefully they don't go raiding Impact.
Oh,
but
I don't think they.
It's the same level, so I don't.
chance.
Yeah, Impact actually has better TV right now, or better exposure, I would think, than ROH. Well, with the YouTube or the Twitch, I mean,
being on Twitch does help.
Being affiliated, they're connected to Amazon Prime too, so that helps.
The interesting thing, there was a little bit of rumor with EC3 having vignettes actually on Ring of Honor 2. Some people have started to speculate maybe that Impact and Ring of Honor might be starting a friendship, and
that would be great.
If that's true, which I truthfully would love to see, that could bring a lot of interesting crossovers where there are some guys in Ring of Honor who did work for Impact, and since it's under new management, maybe they might be willing to give Impact a second chance. Because I know some of them felt a little disgruntled with previous management.
But obviously, all of that that's long gone.
Yeah, so hopefully that kind of rumor becomes reality because it could only help both companies. And since Ring of Honor has a friendship with New Japan, maybe those three could end up working together.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. It really does because, you look at the products, how they're presented, and really there's not much difference in Impact and in ROH.
No, good.
You got AEW, you got the WWE, you got the smaller companies like Pro Wrestling, like Championship Wrestling and MLW, but ROH, Impact, that just makes sense.
Yeah, it would.
It really does.
It'd be a great friendship.
It's kind of like SmackDown and Raw. Mm-hmm. You know how in the draft they changed it. They just changed their rosters. It's kind of like when you watch ROH at a certain time, it's like watching Impact. When you watch Impact, it's like watching Raw.
I know.
They kind of mirror each other.
I would love to see little matches such as the Bouncers against the Motor City Machine.
Yeah, I know the Bouncers.
Or yes, they're an enjoyable tag team. Or how about the North against the Briscoes? Now,
I think the North, the North against maybe Lethal there. Lethal and Finlay, or Lethal and Lethal and Grisham,
or even the Guns against Lethal and Grisham, champions against champions.
No, I would think the Guns and the Briscoes.
Now that would be an entertaining one.
Yeah,
it would be good for that too.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great matchup possibilities that you could come up with just by putting people together from each one. I would love to see it.
All right, so let's move on to AEW. Okay.
Oh yes.
AEW, last Wednesday, we had some highlights. We had the show start off with a tag team title match. This was the 1-year anniversary show.
Yes, it was.
So this was kind of made a big deal. Pretty much from start to finish, it had matches that stood out. You could say pay-per-view quality.
Oh, yes. Every championship was on the line. They made sure that was going to be what it was all about for the anniversary show. What would be better to give people on national television, on the cable networks, is seeing every champion put up or shut up. And they did, each and every one of them.
You had, after the introduction, like I said, the tag team title match, you had FTW.
Right.
With Tully Blanchard.
Well, FTR.
FTR. Why did I say FTW? What am I thinking?
I think you're getting
you're
excited about the Taz belt again.
I'm thinking the Taz belt. That's what I'm doing.
20-some years later.
Hey, that was a good belt for the 1-2 guys that had it back in the day.
Yeah.
He actually lost that belt, didn't he, to Sabu? Didn't he exchange it with one?
It might have been, yeah. More than likely.
All right. So anyway, it was a good match. The best friends.
Best friends. These guys have been together for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
They came out there, have been trying to get that second shot with FTR and all that, and it came to fruition. They had that incredible parking lot fight with Proud and Powerful, which I think caught a lot of attention for people, especially the higher ups.
Yeah.
So they had a really nice match with FTR.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of stuff with Tully Blanchard sticking his nose in, but
yeah.
So they
before the match, FTR they dedicated. They said that love to dedicate the pace, but they're having some problems with the challengers. That said, Jim Ross said this as Trent chopped away at Dax. So Jim Ross, people say from week to week, he's kind of hit and miss. This guy, I think maybe.
Well, he is, getting up there in age.
I don't blame him one bit. I give him all the excuses in the world.
You do commentating for 30-some plus years and all that, and eventually time's going to catch up with you, just like if you are a wrestler who has wrestled for a long period of time.
But they sure do quote Jim Ross a lot. I mean, because I guess he's quotable. All right, so Tully Blanchard. You like this dynamic? You like Tully Blanchard?
I like Tully Blanchard because a lot of people have said that FTR does remind them of Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson back in the day, the old NWA days with the Four Horsemen, and I can see that totally. I mean, they are good tag team wrestlers. They're smart. They know their moves. They know how to, manipulate the ring, the ref, circumstance. There's lots of similarities to them. So, with Tully Blanchard, they can only go to the top, where they already are. I mean, I could see them being tag champs for quite some time, especially under the tutelage of a former Four Horsemen tag specialist in Tully Blanchard. So.
Okay, so during this match, we had some stuff with Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford.
Yes, they were out at ringside playing on a arcade cabinet that I guess Kip Sabian brought out to entertain themselves while the tournament or the matches were going on, and it seemed that the tag match sort of spilled out into the group of wrestlers who surround the ring.
Trent ruined the arcade machine. There.
Well, he was trying to. Now I believe it was Cash Wheeler, and Cash sort of sidestepped and just tossed him right into it, pretty much destroying the cabinet, which raised the ire of Kip Sabian. And he screamed to his soon-to-be wife to get the best man. And
we all know how the best man feels about his video games.
He is a passionate one.
The man has a whole Twitch career.
Yes, we know that well. And so when the match did finally end with FTR retaining their belts, shortly came the man known as Miro.
And he laid waste, huh?
He blasted both of them, gave them a true beating, and from what it seems like, it's not going to be the first one that he wants to give to the best friends. So I see.
Well, he's the best man to do it to the best friends. It's really funny with a name. It's so close to. It's like you got the best friends, you got the best man. Why wouldn't Miro just be a part of the best friends? Because he's the best man. The thing about him coming with Kip Sabian is it makes no sense to me, but they're doing it. They're making sense out of it.
Yeah.
They're connecting it with the video games.
Correct.
With the things, with them hanging out. It seems like Kip and Miro's dynamic is they're just kind of video game buddies.
True. Yes, there's that small dynamic that does connect them and all that. Their passion.
Yeah,
their
I mean, I
travels
like
on
it. I
Twitch.
think it's fun. Kip Saban, it's good. He's got something going because he's been floundering with Penelope. They really haven't been knowing what to do with him. They haven't really had a good idea.
Yeah, it's been a little tough to find the right person to maybe have him go up against recently. I'd love to see them, try and find somebody for him during that time. But right now, it seems they're gonna have him and Miro be part of that tag team one, since they did lose one tag team recently in the initiative to breaking up because they couldn't get that one win. AEW is very big on their tag team division.
Oh no, I know. Hey, they're really putting an effort into the tag team division. I was just thinking, just a feud with Miro and Kip versus the Jurassic Express.
It would be
Miro and Lucha. Lucha's.
I love that guy.
And think of all the stuff Miro could do with
Jungle Boy?
No, not Jungle Boy.
Oh, you mean stunt?
With Marco.
Oh Lord.
What's funny, speaking about Marco, is he's going to be appearing at the Championship Wrestling Halloween Spooktacular.
Oh really?
He's another guy coming in. And he had a little segment on the Championship Wrestling show. He's getting a tattoo.
Serious.
And he was like, right here on his forearm, and he's like, hey, I'm going to be at the show, check me out. And then like it ends with him going, and like cringing and stuff. I don't know. I think he's a funny little guy, but I worry about him.
He's got
because he is a bucko-5 in every sense of the word.
He's got great wrestling skills for a guy of his stature.
Oh no, definitely. He reminds me of Spike Dudley. I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, if genetics aside, hey, if he could have been the size of even just Jungle Boy, I mean, he would be a real threat to a lot of guys out there, and he would give even that much more of a match. Not that I'm saying he couldn't give a good match, against guys such as MJF or Kip Saban,
right,
or Scorpio Sky and all that. Just his stature does give him some disadvantage.
I mean, he's the ultimate sell toy.
He's an ultimate underdog.
Yeah, you could put him with anybody and get sympathy.
Yeah, he may have the stature of a mouse, but he's got a heart of a lion. I'll give him that when he gets in that ring. He doesn't back down from anyone.
Most definitely. Now let's talk about the backstage. Lance Archer with Jon Moxley. This starts early.
Oh yes.
Right after the first match. So Lance Archer was out. This should have been a match a couple of weeks ago, but he had the bug. He was around people with the bug, so he was quarantined, and he's back now. So Lance Archer, Jon Moxley, they can't keep this stuff in the ring to save their life.
I know that backstage, it just started in a brawl and just kept happening occasionally throughout the night with all the different matches.
But anyway, that's pretty much what that was. They just pried them apart in the back, and then we get right into probably the best segment of the show. It always seems to be the best segment of the show when these two are together, and that's Jericho and MJF.
Oh yes, they're
MJF and Wardlow come out to the ring. The week before that, he had given jackets to everybody except.
Yes, everybody except Sammy. He's the only one that didn't get a jacket, and I think Sammy was a little perturbed by that, but. In this segment, he did get Sammy that jacket.
Oh, boy. And it fit like a glove. It wouldn't have even fit me at this point. 5XL. It was so funny seeing it on this guy.
Yes, it was. It looked like a little 5-year-old wearing his father's jacket.
I'm going to say even a 5XL jacket looked better than that Panda garb he came out to the ring with a year ago.
Well, he was trying to pull something off.
No, I get it. I do get it, but I'm definitely, I didn't think that was anything good for him. But anyway, getting on to this, MJF walks out with Wardlow. I'm here to get on top. I'm here to stay on top, baby. And he introduced the Demogod. He invited Jericho out with his posse. Spent some time going back and forth with Jericho. All right, after the whole fits like a glove, he made that remark to Sammy. I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, it fits like a glove. Just hanging there on him. All right, so, MJF is going back and forth with Jericho, complimenting Jericho's hair, asking if he can touch it, really enthralled with everything. Putting on a big show, putting on a big distraction show, being MJF. All right, finally Jericho goes, yeah, it's great. Cut the crap.
Right.
Why are we out here? All right, so... Pretty much long story short here, MJF spend some time beating around the bush, if you will, kind of, sort of, maybe, if you would let me, maybe, hopefully, all that kind of running on, getting around to asking if you could be a part of the inner circle.
Right.
This is definitely where it's headed. Of course, the only person in the inner circle that thinks this is a good idea is Jericho's ego.
Yes, yes.
Everybody else seems to just think MJF is exactly what he appears to be. And he is. There's no secrets about characters like MJF.
No.
But MJF definitely dynamic with Chris Jericho. This is something that needs to definitely simmer. This can't just boil over immediately. No. And AEW has had a tendency now to rush. They start up something, they don't follow through with it, and then all of a sudden, a month later, we're culminating something, and then it's over, and you're burning it out. And I think now they've kind of settled in, and they kind of realize that they shouldn't be so much worried about NXT week to week, but they really need to be focused on their storytelling and drawing these things out.
Yeah.
And I think they've been doing a good job up to this point with MJF and with Chris Jericho. This is definitely their money right now.
Oh, yes.
All right, so this Wednesday we got the epic Grudge steak dinner.
Yes.
The most important steak dinner in the history of professional wrestling, Cecil.
Oh, my God. Imagine what's going to happen at that table.
I'm going to predict medium rare for MJF, and Chris Jericho is going to be a well-done man.
You think he'd be a well-done man?
Yeah, why not? Just to be funny.
You think there'll be mushrooms on the side or possibly a baked potato?
I think MJF is going to complain about the steak, and I think Chris Jericho is going to complain that MJF was the one that hooked up the chef that made the steaks, and it was his fault anyway.
I think he might even complain if there's not a bottle of the bubbly at the table.
I think regardless of how much bubbly there is, there's going to be a lot of it drank, probably before they even go out to the ring. But I am hoping that this happens in the ring for comedy's sake. These guys are good at reading what should happen with these things. They don't do the whole WWE bothers to set up something in the backstage that looks like a restaurant.
Yes.
And they bothered to stage this whole ridiculous thing when it's nothing about the actual... What this is about MJF and Chris Jericho.
Right.
This is about growing their relationship to where they are eventually partners, and then they eventually break up.
Yeah.
And it's one of your biggest matches that you've ever had.
The thing that I look forward, because if you saw near the end of that little segment, you see Jack Hager and Wardlow sort of eyeball each other. Like
and that makes perfect sense. That's
like
what I'm saying. They're kind of mirror images at this point. You got Chris with Jake Hager.
Jake Hager.
Not Jack. Ugh.
No.
And then you got MJF with Wardlow. And you got Wardlow and Jake kind of, smelling at each other.
They're like two bulldogs looking at the same steak.
Protective bodyguard type. And then you got the alpha personalities in MJF and Chris Jericho. I don't know if they're alpha males, but they're alpha characters. That's
True.
for damn sure. Sammy Guevara. Do you think Sammy Guevara is going to be replaced with MJF? Do you think when MJF comes in, because it's going to happen?
Yes.
It should happen. If this goes directly to just him not joining them and them having a match, I hope that doesn't happen. So if MJF does join the Inner Circle and he's a member of the Inner Circle for a period of time, do you think it should just be an addition? Or do you think something's going to happen with the way everybody else is acting where Jericho is going to... Here's like the classic, okay? The classic how maybe something like this would play out. MJF frames Sammy or one of the other members.
Right.
He tells Jericho that they did something they really didn't do. Jericho gets pissed at them, kicks them out. MJF earns Jericho's trust. Right? And then we're off to the races with a partnership, Mega Powers, Rockers, whatever you want to label it. Eventually they break up. They have Mega Powers. This is AEW's heel Mega Powers right here. MJF is the Macho Man and Jericho is Hogan.
Oh yeah, I could see that there's going to be frictions between Sammy not getting the attentions from Daddy Jericho because he's getting his ego
Exactly. That's why I think it's going to be Sammy.
And there's going to be a little thing there. Now whether powerful, Pride and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, whether they get pulled into it or they take sides, that'll be soon to see, you know, based on the events in the future and all that. But there could be a few different little things.
I mean, Ortiz snapped. He said, we don't want you in the inner circle.
Yeah, we don't want you.
So they did make it known to pretty much, you know, with Ortiz snapping, with Sammy Guevara's just whole demeanor about it, with Jake on Wardlow, they are really setting this up to be something major.
I could see it being a split, and we seeing, you know, like where Hager would stand, where Wardlow would stand, because Wardlow has his own little issues with MJF and all that we've seen in the past, you know, month or so. But it should be a very interesting dynamic to see what comes of it.
How about old Britt? How about Britt there with Tony getting a spa day?
The role model, yes, going on about her broken nose and busted up knee and the injuries that she's gotten in some of the matches and coming back strong.
What was it she quoted from Jim Ross? Rule number 5.
Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember.
Be the baddest bitch on the block.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And,
funny to see Tony getting pampered.
yeah, you know, and especially it was funnier seeing them notice that he was naked under that cloth and them freaking out about it.
Well, everybody knows Tony Schiavone's an exhibitionist.
I'm sure they were having flashbacks of seeing their father and stuff.
Yeah, if you've been a fan of What Happened When, then you know Tony can let it all out.
Yes, though I did find it funny with that little 40-year-old virgin bit with the waxing of his chest. And I wouldn't do that table for $1 million. Forget that.
I thought it was pretty funny. And Reba, you know, God bless Reba, putting up with all of it. All right, American Nightmare. We get the match against Freshly Squeezed.
Oh, that
OC.
Such a great match. I mean, just the back and forth. I mean, early on it was Orange Cassidy basically just, you know, doing what he does to get the ire up of his opponent. So maybe he might stumble or fumble on his strategy of beating Orange Cassidy. But it soon got into the hot and heavy match where they were going back and forth and trying to make sure that the other guy stayed down.
Well, I mean, this is a week after a dog collar match.
Yes, it was very
So,
impressive.
I mean, obviously, you know, storyline here, Cody should not be 100%. Far from it.
Oh, no, you could see that there was tape and bandages across the back where he did get the injuries from the dog collar match with the Exalted One, Brody Lee.
Mm-hmm.
But for a guy who was in a dog collar match a week later fighting, he showed he still had enough in the tank to take on a strong competitor in Orange Cassidy.
We got Darby sitting up in the high in the arena, watching it like Sting, Crow Sting.
Yeah,
he's Crow Sting.
Yeah,
Darby's just he's a combination of Jeff Hardy and Sting.
Yeah, we found out later in that match that Tony Khan did give Darby Allin a title match for the next pay-per-view coming up. So depending on who wins in that one, because
it's going to be a body bag match.
It'll be an interesting match for sure.
They should that's going to be his theme going. Watch, it'll be his casket match. I bet you anything.
Oh, I'm
Darby
sure.
Allin, expect body bag matches from this guy. I'll bet you anything it'll be his casket.
Occasionally, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that they put so much into him getting put in a body bag a few weeks ago.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That dealing with his time with his things with Team Taz and that stuff with, especially with Ricky Starks, which I know
Darby, listen to me, Darby.
That hasn't ended for sure, but
and I like that, you know, because we were watching NWA before all of this happened, and boy, NWA, it was getting to be my favorite show of the week. It really was. I mean, you know, granted my age and the nostalgia factor of it coming off like a Jim Crockett show, but I really was enjoying just the simplicity, the succinctness. They were using everybody they had.
Right.
You know, I think so many people get lost in the shuffle when it comes to these bigger promotions, unfortunately, and they only have so much time. And then, again, another problem WWE tends to have is giving too much time to certain people.
Right. It's when you got a big roster, sometimes it is hard to try and give everybody that little bit. because you have so many different possible storylines and stuff. You pick and choose. But yeah, I mean, Ricky Stark, he has got a lot of talent, a lot of ability. I mean, when I saw him in NWA and when he came out for his match against Cody, he showed what he could do, and that's the reason why they signed him.
Right. I mean, he won the first TV belt when they brought that back.
Yes.
You know, was it last year? You know.
Yes.
But you know, the thing about AEW that I've noticed is a lot of their really over baby faces. The ones that really get the crowd backing and they get the sympathy and the support. These are guys that you would not see utilized in other promotions. If there wasn't an AEW, you'd never see these guys in WWE. You probably wouldn't even see them in NXT. Think about Marco Stunt. Think about you know, Dino Boy. I'm saying Dino Boy here, Jungle Boy. Yeah, it's the same thing. But think about Jack Perry and think about Marco Stunt. Think about Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. All four of those guys, their framework, the way they look. I mean, Vince McMahon wouldn't take a cup of coffee from these guys, let alone let them in his ring, probably.
At best, if they did get signed, they'd be development. Maybe you wouldn't see. They'd be at house shows, or they'd get stuck on 205 Live.
Marco Stunt, at best, would be putting the turnbuckle, the ring together, this guy. It's unfortunate. It is. I'm not trying to make fun here. The thing is it's nice that we're back to where we have promotions and not only have TV, they can use these guys and they can give them genuine gimmicks and characters that people can get behind. You know, because there was such a long time there.
Right. After
ECW and WCW folded, where really, I mean, you had Impact, you had a ROH. They had some exposure, but it was nothing like what AEW has. Right. AEW is just, it's WCW version 2.
Yeah.
And I only say that because of the TNT connection here and the time and everything. But, I mean, it really is. I mean, their product, the camera, the camera is, it's the WCW look.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
You can feel the nostalgia.
Because, you know, WWF has always had more of a softer camera. Is that what you call it? You know what I mean?
I guess.
You can tell. There's a difference. You can always tell. When I was growing up, and, you know, and you in the 90s, you know, and you watched WCW, and you watched the WWF, you could tell the difference in the production. I'm not saying that either one had less money, because they didn't, Eric Bischoff, you know, but it was weird. You know, how the WCW, the TNT look, always looked like more of a live sporting event. And WWE always seemed to like reach more for a cinematic look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which there isn't anything bad to it, but what I'm saying is I watch AEW, and it's almost as if with Tony there and Jim and everything, you got your WCW back.
Yeah,
Especially with the Tony thing with people like us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people rag on Tony. It's like, why do they use these guys? But it's like, you know what? If the commentary, really seriously, are you watching the product for the commentary? You're not, right?
Right.
You're not. It adds to it, but you're not. So you take familiars, all right, with a product that is trying to be the next WCW. There's nothing about AEW that comes off to me like they're trying to be WWE. It's Cody is totally taking what he got from his dad, and he's trying to make WCW come back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just makes perfect sense. It's TNT.
Yeah.
All right. You know, they might get a third hour. They might get another show, which is great.
Well, there's talk of that other show, but nothing's going to be coming about that until the first of the year. They want to make sure that they have all their eggs in one basket before they start coming out with like details about it. I mean, they do Dark to show people the regular talents and possibly find another hidden gem in there, like how they did finding Will Hobbs, you know, putting him in the Casino Battle Royale.
Dark is their NXT pretty much when it comes to that, because what you said just there is you watch Dark and all of a sudden the people that are on Dark are on Dynamite.
Right.
But they're coming in ready. They're coming in with a character, with a storyline prepared. I think Dark is a really good thing for AEW. And I think the way it's presented is good on YouTube. Not too pushed. It's not a television show. I think it's the right type of exposure that somebody that's still kind of green or new needs to be ready for the bigger stage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, they don't have a network.
no, but
You know
but,
what I
having,
mean?
but having it on YouTube,
But having it on YouTube.
there are a lot of viewers. You can
Yeah.
see guys week after week, and I'll give you examples. Will Hobbs has been one of the newer ones, but if you look at it, look at Alan Angels.
Yeah.
He was on there for 2-3 different darks. His match that I think was the most important match was his against Kenny Omega. Because
Yeah.
it wasn't just some 5-6 minute little squasher. No. Alan Angels showed that he could put on a good match with a named guy who has been out there for a while. And that match, I think, caught a lot of eyes. And now look at him. He got interest, and he's part of the Dark Order as number 5.
Right.
And then you see someone, a young talent like Anna Jay, who's out there, and she gets put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find guys like Will Hobbs and whoever else might be that next guy. I mean, 2 weeks ago, we saw Lee Johnson in a match with Ben Carter, and everybody talked about how great that match is. Because
No relation to EC3.
No. And Big Shotty, as he likes to call him, Lee Johnson, I think he opened a few eyes because that match was a very good one for two guys you might only seen in indies. They're new young fellas.
And another good thing you pointed out, Kenny Omega. All right, another good thing about AEW Dark is that you can take your bigger guys that have a different type of exposure on a televised show, and you can put them in matches on Dark, and you can highlight their opponents on this show.
Cool.
All right, the show isn't about Kenny. The show is about Kenny coming in and highlighting one of the newer guys, or anybody else coming in and doing that.
Showing
It's
how
not
it work.
it's not the equivalent of when we were growing up, the jobber matches, if you will.
Yeah.
All right, they use this show to build up the ones that aren't ready for Dynamite yet. They're using it properly. They're doing it right.
They're looking for that diamond in the rough.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
So Orange got the better of Cody, but John Silver of the Dark grabbed the championship while the match was going on.
Yes, try to hit Cody because they all are still very upset at the loss.
They got ejected.
Yes, they all came out. The referee wasn't going to put up with any shenanigans and shoved them all out. At one point, Orange Cassidy did have the title in his hand. He looked at it, and then he put it right in the chest of Arn Anderson. Is like, basically, hold this, I'll be back for it. They got it back in the ring, kept going, and that match ended up in a draw, 20-minute draw. So
Jim Ross said Orange is fighting his ass off.
Yeah.
Har!
And since there was no decision on that one, after the pay-per-view, whoever's the champion between Cody and Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy's going to get a third shot at that title. So there could be a rematch with Cody, or who knows, there could be an interesting match with Darby Allin as the champ against
I like how
Cassidy.
Orange is this guy on the sidelines that's just kind of like, always getting these opportunities, but something's happening. To where like he can still kind of stay neutral with all of it. And they go into these feuds revolving around these titles with Cody and with Mox. And Orange is just going to always be that guy that's like, when am I going to get my next opportunity? He's always going to be that guy that, they're going to go with feuds and they're going to go through these other guys, but he's going to be the guy that always keeps coming back and back and back. That's probably the best way to use him.
I think with him, a big reason why he got a shot with Cody was when he first got his chance at it when he fought the Exalted One, Brody Lee. He's facing a bigger, stronger,
and
more
that was
guy,
a good match.
And he showed that he could hang with a big boy like him. And I think that gave a lot more respect to the matchmakers to keep an eye on him and see what else he could do. And he's getting a bit of that push for that title. Now, whether he'll get it or not, time will tell.
I'm telling you, AEW is rich in sympathetic baby faces. They got so many guys that are just good at getting pummeled to death, and then coming back and,
It's true.
It's just that old formula, where it's just like Bret Hart. Growing up, I just remember Bret was always one of those guys that just got a bunch of beaten, but then he just came back. You know?
Right.
I mean, I like that type of character, and I think in a baby face, that's really, Ricky Steamboat was like that.
Yeah.
Ricky Morton, remember the Express, the rock and roll. It's just, those are the best faces.
Oh, yeah.
Really, it is, All right, so Matt Hardy, he had an interview with Tony.
Yep.
He was out for a little while. It seems like this feud he's got with Sammy is cursed.
It seems like it. He was there talking to Tony Schiavone, saying that the doctors had fully cleared him from all the injuries from his last match with Sammy, which everybody knows all the story and
So he's primed and ready to get hurt again.
Right, and he's just ready to find out who was the person that attacked him a couple weeks ago in the knee, and he had his wife and 3 children there.
So big reveal here. We go up to the monitor. We see T-shirts hanging, being set on fire, and it zooms out, and Sammy.
Yeah, all along, which isn't a shock.
But, it's a shock they're not ending this feud before one of them gets killed.
True.
There's some bad mojo on this one. There's a bad karma on this one.
Yeah, I think.
But I think
they need to end this one.
But honestly, I think that's why they're not. I think they see this and they're like, we can market this. We can market the fact that this has been a cursed feud. And so I really think that the reason they're continuing it is because of what's been happening up to this point. I think with the injuries, I really think that this would have been a feud that would have been over, by now.
Yeah, this one.
Especially what's going on with MJF and everything.
If they do something
Sammy.
with this one, they need to end it quick.
I mean, I'm going to make a point here about that, going back with the MJF and how this is why maybe the MJF stuff should have happened after the Matt Hardy stuff. Because what happened here was you had Sammy out in the ring looking like a total fool, looking like a 12-year-old in an adult jacket. Just and then you expect me like 10 minutes later to take this guy as a serious threat? When you totally make him look like just like a lackey like that? And I'm not saying it wasn't executed well, but what I'm saying is it's like, choose a role for Sammy, man. All right? Either he's going to have this role where he's just like this frustrated, like wanting attention, craving it from Chris Jericho. And then, in his separate feuds, in these like actual matches, we're going to take him serious after he throws hissy fits and acts like a child. I don't know, man.
I think there's a way that you could blend it.
Yeah.
That the anger he is getting, feeling neglected from an older wrestler like Chris Jericho for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And the matches he has against somebody who's also in that same age range. And all
right, right.
You could do basically what psychiatrists call the transfer.
I like where you're going here, right? Yeah.
From one to the other.
Exactly.
So
that's what I think.
You could put him as slowly, losing his grip on losing the guy who was like his dad in Chris Jericho, the way they were, because they were they sex gods and all that, and now he's being overlooked by the new guy, and he's dealing with a current thing that he has with Matt Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, when that thing happens, if he loses to Matt Hardy and all that, that could boil over into his own personal thing with Chris Jericho and MJF, which could cause a split into the inner circle if it's written and comes out that way, which could help lead into the splitting of that with maybe Sammy with Santana and Ortiz and MJF with Chris Jericho.
Okay, well, let's finish up the AEW talk by Moxley. The main event here with the Murder Hawk.
Yes.
Yeah. So they had a pretty good match, but pretty much it's not really about what went on in the match. Let's just really quickly talk about what happened, how the match, ended in a disqualification. Eddie Kingston.
Well, no, actually, Jon Moxley did beat the Murder Hawk.
He did. What am I thinking there? He did beat him. That's right.
He did do.
My feed cut off before the match was over, so I forgot.
He did put the Murder Hawk through tables on the outside when they were on the apron.
Right,
he did use
okay.
a Paragon shift and all that. Got him into the ring, and he did get a pin count on the Murder Hawk.
And Jim actually said slobber knocker during this match.
Yes, he did this famous...
It's been a while. He doesn't really do it.
Yep. And so after he did defeat the Murder Hawk and all that, and you saw that Murder Hawk was going to keep beating on Jon Moxley, you see, of all people, Eddie Kingston and the Lucha Brothers come out there, and Ray Phoenix hits the Murder Hawk in the back with a chair and didn't face him.
Well, because Eddie Kingston said soften him up.
Right. And so, the chair shot to the back didn't stop him completely. He turned, looked at both of them, and if it wasn't for Jake Roberts, you could have seen Lance Archer go at it with both the Lucha Brothers, but he pulled him away. Eddie Kingston did the pick him up, boys. He's the champ. Give him his thing. Looked like he was obviously setting him up for something.
Yeah.
Talking about how they were boys and back in the day and this and that. And the next thing you know, he does his spinning back fist and then grabs him and puts him in a rear naked choke, putting him out, staring into the camera, smiling, screaming that he didn't tap and he didn't.
So
quit.
this is what it's all about. Threw the belt on him, huh?
Threw the belt on him, and I can see them continuing their fight because Eddie Kingston feels that Moxley left him and all the others that rode up and down the roads together. He left them by for greener pastures that didn't end up being as green as they thought. So he's got a bit of jealousy and hatred.
Just a bit. All right, Kingston just... I don't know about this guy yet. I'm going to have to see a little bit more. I remember him in the NWA.
Right.
He's a talker, but yeah.
He's a great promo guy.
Right.
I mean, there's
I think that's
good,
that's what
not.
AEW's thinking though. The promo guys, it's I think that's they're thinking they just need some good mic guys, so they brought him in, and he's doing his job. All right, we don't have much longer, so we're gonna do just a little WWE here, just a little bit. I know you're not a major fan of the WWE because Vince is the devil.
Well, I've sort of soured just because the product just hasn't been what it once was.
Right.
They rehash a few things, or they're just not following through on stuff that they wanted to.
Well, also too, it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Eventually, it took COVID, but I guess Vince has his Roman. He had to make him a heel.
Yes.
But Roman Reigns is one of the biggest things going on WWE right now. People are interested in this. He's got a feud with Jay. They came out on Raw. Jay bashed Roman over the back with the chair after Roman had kind of this was on SmackDown, not Raw. I'm sorry. After Roman had come out and beaten Braun Strowman.
Yep.
Braun doesn't matter. Who cares anymore? Horse show went to Raw. So Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Hell in a Cell, a match nobody wanted, but thank God for Jey, because I don't care anything about Roman. You could do anything to this guy, and I just don't. I'm so sorry with this one, but I think I share the same opinion a lot of people have, that even as a heel, even with Paul Heyman, man, I don't know. This guy just comes off as just something that you don't want to support.
Well, it all depends. I mean, there are a lot of people who do like Paul Heyman, and he seems to elevate some people in a way. I mean, that's why there was always that shirt back in the past that they all wore was "I'm a Paul Heyman guy."
No,
back in the day,
yeah.
And they just seem to, things happen with.
I
Paul
want
Heyman.
Jay to put on such a good show next Sunday.
Oh, I think he will.
That they do break up the Usos. And I know that's really, it's like they don't have tag teams to begin with. But the team that's due to break up is the Usos. I mean, eventually it doesn't matter if there's brothers, even the Hardys had civil runs, the Steiners. You got to eventually break teams up. It's just how it goes. Jay, one of them are due for something. And Jay, really, I got to be honest with you, the only thing that I'm intrigued about when it comes to the storyline is Jay. Jay hasn't been given anything. All of a sudden now, they used to rag on the Usos because they didn't talk.
Right.
Remember, they either weren't given an opportunity or they were shy or something about it. Like they just hadn't broken out that way yet. This has really helped Jay. All right, so you know what? I think the thing you can take out of Roman being a heel is maybe it's going to, give those people that Roman needs to face, the new blood.
Right.
A chance to shine.
Yeah.
Because if Roman's the heel, if the attention ain't being put into Roman, if it's not about getting Roman over, he's already over. You've established he's the unbeatable champion for the moment. Then it's about giving him these opponents that going in aren't going to get the title from him. So it's about doing everything you can to upgrade them into someone that people want to see after the feud's over.
Right. It'll be interesting to see how that and the other matches that are going to be in the upcoming pay-per-view, see how those pan out. With Bayley and Sasha.
I think the money match is Bayley and Sasha. I think it's the one that everybody is going to be watching the show for. I really do. I mean, the J match aside, this is the one going in that has the friendship, it has the heat, it has the story, it has all of that. This is the Rockers. Yeah. Right? This is that classic, throw them through the barbershop window. That's what Bayley did with Sasha.
Yeah, it's friends turn to enemies, and that's always a classic story for wrestling.
It's the best stories in wrestling. The grudge matches are always the best stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those are the only matches that mean something without titles.
Yeah.
Really seriously, those are the matches where you culminate the story and the payoff.
Yeah.
All right, the reaction you get from that payoff is just how great you built it up to.
Yeah, it seems recently with the things they did in the draft, and especially the other big thing that a lot of people have talked about is the New Day after 6 years breaking up, because they want to give Big E that push.
And I'm glad they stuck with that. I'm glad that Kofi and Xavier went to Raw. I'm glad that this finally happened. I don't know why people have been making such a big deal over this team that could go nowhere else. 10-time tag belts? They just give these guys belts when they're bored. All right? And so the thing is, and also I'm going to point this out right now. Getting on the New Day, an act that I was very much behind when they first came in. I bought the shirt and everything. They have run their course. You can't sell any more shirts. How many more pancakes can you throw? All right? And I'm going to say this right now. All right? The New Day has been 80% Big E and Kofi, and 20% Xavier. Even when that guy was healthy, most of the time he was on the sidelines blowing a trombone. All right, this for better or worse, the guy's injury prone, I guess. This for better or worse is going to force them to be a legit tag team, not, Freebird rules. Okay, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
This is Xavier has to go out and he has to now be a fucking, you know what I mean?
Right.
Excuse that one there. But this is something passionate of mine right here. Because one, I never wanted to see Big E. I never wanted to see Langston go into a faction to begin with. As soon as he came in, NXT champion, second one, all right? Mm-hmm. He beat what was his name in NXT? Now I forget. Seth Rollins, but, didn't he have a different name in NXT? No, I'm thinking the Indies. I'm thinking the
You're
Indies.
thinking the Indies, yeah.
All right, but he beat Seth Rollins. But anyway, I like this because they started this out anyway. Months ago, Kofi comes in and he's like, hey, you're going to have a run. This is on you. And they built it like, they were going to leave it like that. And then they come in and they do this new Day thing, just to draft two of them over to Raw.
Right.
And they make a big deal like they're breaking up, like they're retiring. All right? It really, I don't know. I think it's like, let's get on with it. Well,
I think the best way that they did this was they didn't do it the typical way of breaking them up by, Big E decides to turn on them and cost the tag titles or anything like that. They broke up and they went their ways in a mutual way. It wasn't a turning, on your guys and do that. Because we've seen that a dozen times.
Right.
They let it be that he's going on to, try and be what he was supposed to be when it first started in NXT, a strong singles competitor.
Right.
And, maybe he'll be the Intercontinental title.
Well, no Intercontinental title. No. And the thing is you can't waste any more time with Big E. You can't waste any more time with Langston. All right? This guy, by WrestleMania, has to be in the big picture. Really, he's ready for it. He deserves it. The thing you got with the New Day is you got Xavier Woods, who's hit and miss, wrestling half the time, all right? Known more for his podcasting. You got Kofi, who's already he's already had his time.
He did it all.
All right, he's ready to kind of, be in the backdrop in a tag team, okay? The whole major importance of the New Day right now is Big E. Even when that team was together, you're not telling me that Big E wasn't like, he wasn't the stir in that pot. That guy came out, he was the character. He was the guy that did the moves. He was the colorful, cartoony type of energetic. You know what I mean?
Fun-loving guy.
Exactly. And I mean, the other two kind of just, pretty much we're kind of just riding on him.
Well, with Big E, since now he's going to be singles, they got to get him into like at least the first feud. Somebody that will help and elevate. Somebody that he could have really good matches with to show his skills and ability. Because if you want him, if you were the writer or creator, and you want him to be in the big picture at WrestleMania, you only got 2.5 months before the Rumble comes. Are you going to have him win the Rumble to get him there?
Oh, yeah.
Or are you going to have some kind of circumstance where it's an elimination chamber or some other little thing that could lead to
I hope not. I can definitely see Big E this time around getting the Rumble win. It would make sense. This is the perfect time for Big E to get a Rumble win if they did that.
As long as he stays hot during the singles push. Yeah. Because depending on who you put him up against, if you're going to have him, it's a Sheamus, a Cesaro, or somebody who is a good singles worker that can help put him over. Mm-hmm. But if you have something like Baron Corbin or some kind of thing like that where it'll get pushed on the public, but it just doesn't, help him, cement his status as becoming a more upper tier guy, it's going to make it a little tougher and people might not accept it as much. That's the one problem.
Well, we will see what happens. We're not going to really go too much more into the WWE. We're going to wrap up for tonight because we have the show next week.
Sure.
Next week's show will be pretty much all Impact in WWE. So I hope everybody out there will tune in to that show next week at the same time, same bat channel. Sessel, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Sounds good. Hell in a Cell next week. Subscribe, click that like button, and join us every Sunday for Wrestling Figure Forum. I am Horseman.
And I am Sessel.
Happy trails.